They are not mentally fit to be out in public. They shouldn't let them out. On your watch, what reform has really happened? That people like Evan Ebel, who we knew was a member of a prison gang, we knew was so violent that he wasn't fit to live with other prisoners, he was in solitary confinement, that somehow there wasn't something, as Susan Thurston says, that government could do. What parole reform have you embraced? In fact, you didn't embrace, because the State House passed legislation that would have reformed the mandatory early release legislation you had originally signed, and it was blocked by your Democrat Senate, and you didn't intervene, so far as I know, and say, get that to my desk so we can fix this problem.
Okay. Well, let me, I'll answer this question and we'll get back onto the format. I apologize, Steve. So when Tom Clement was hired, we had about the worst rate. I think we were the worst or second to the worst in terms of taking people and almost for convenience putting them into solitary confinement. A great many of these people have mental illness. Tom Clement was hired because he had experience with that. He was the head of corrections in Missouri. He was recruited by 6 other states. He chose Colorado, and we were grateful. We, at that time, would reduce 47% of our inmates would be released directly to the streets, just like Congressman said. And Tom Clement started working on that. We reduced that number in the first 2 years. And again, we've got 21,000 prisoners, difficult cultures to deal with. Reduced that number to 23%, cut the use of long-term solitary confinement by over 40%. And just for the record, for the last 6 months, right, no inmates have been released from solitary to the streets, right, directly into the population. So we have fixed that problem. It was not easy, but we've fixed that problem. Now we can get back on with your...
But what you fixed the problem with was by putting them back in a prison population.
Okay, let's move on. Okay, let's move on to our final question. Mr. Hickenlooper, you'll answer this one first. Pueblo's public schools have been and continue to be among the lowest in Colorado in terms of per pupil funding. What can you do to correct that? Well, certainly the challenge in public education is difficult, and the Congressman's going to talk about federal grants we're going to get, and we've gotten a bunch, right? We just got a $23 million Race to the Top grant that's going to allow us to compete. Unfortunately, those formulas don't do a great job of, they are biased towards those places where the state government spends a lot of money on education. If you do that, you get more money, and states that have aren't as affluent. We're unfortunately, in terms of funding from the Department of Education, one of the more affluent states. But there are a lot of things we can do, and I think there are places, even here in southern Colorado, where we see innovation making huge differences, right? In Center Colorado, it's one of the very poorest districts in the entire state of Colorado, and in the last few years, they completely turned it around. In 2004, 20% of Center high school graduates went on to post-high school education. 2013, only 9 years later, 78% of them were 2 years into their post-high school educations. So they've increased their READ scores, their third grade literacy scores every year for 8 consecutive years. Right? Getting funding is difficult, and I think right now it's going to be on a local level. Each district, and in poor districts like parts of southern Colorado, it is a real challenge. We need to figure out more ways of creating incentives and not race to the top, but motivational incentives so that we can get more money into low-income districts all across the state, right? But we have done things such as passing the transparency bill last year. We're the first state in America so that you'll be able to go to a website and see if whatever school your child's at, you'll see how much money is spent on that building, how much money is spent for the teacher, how much is spent for the administration there, how much goes to the school district. And I guarantee you, you want to change the dynamic between schools and parents, give parents that real information. I think it'll make a dramatic difference. We've added 8,000 early childhood education slots, and they're making a big difference.
Mr. Beaupre?
Well, there's a number of things we can do, and one of them would be giving authority back to parents. John alluded to it, but he's a supporter of of Common Core, which is really a federal intervention into the classroom. You know, start by recognizing that nobody loves a child more than their mother and their dad. Why would we want federal bureaucrats intervening more in our classroom than they already do? Why don't we trust mothers and dads on where and how children ought to get educated? He alluded to it because he knows it's coming. He knows it's a fact. Barack Obama's Census Bureau tells us that Colorado has fallen on his watch to 50th among the various states in getting your federal tax dollars back to your schools. Now, we're not talking about a few dollars and cents here. We're talking about tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars if we were just middle of the pack. And he's got excuses, says, well, you got to apply for grants. That's right. You've got to fill out the paperwork. You've got to stand up for Colorado and Colorado's kids and do what's necessary to get our rightful federal dollars back. In total, of every dollar you send to Washington, D.C., we only get 84 cents of it back. That's wrong. His idea was, well, let's tax Colorado $1 billion more. Thankfully, you threw that back in his face. Let's do what we already have a right, an obligation, and an opportunity to do and get the dollars back from the federal government. The other thing that hasn't happened is, as he said, implied that reading scores has improved. They have some places, but statewide, here's the tragedy, folks. Among little 8- and 9-year-old children, third graders, almost 30% of them, and now this year, it was almost 2% worse, can't read at grade level proficiency. You want to make a difference? If they can read at grade level proficiency, what we know, 95% of them will go on and graduate from high school. That's how to make a difference. Give every child that has the innate ability to learn how to read a fighting chance at the opportunities of this great nation. Let's teach them to read, and on my watch, we will.
Mr. Hickenlooper?
Well, first, what he's referring to is the Common Core. I call it the Colorado Core because we took those assessment systems. And each one of them has been tailored and is particular to Colorado's conditions and schools, and then we turn it over to the school districts, and they have final control on how that works. That's just the way it works. It was started, just so you know, Common Core was started by Republican governors. It came nowhere out of Washington. It was a group of governors working together. And if we were to bow out of our obligation under PARC, which is our collaborative that we're working on with 11 other states, right, we would have to come up with $25 to $30 million or be in violation of all the contracts we have because of No Child Left Behind, which he encouraged and supported when he was in Congress. So the bottom line here, we do need to get our third graders reading. That's why we passed the READ Act, right? We have the third most innovative and strict effort to get third graders reading, but it didn't get funded. There was not enough money in the budget. We are going to take those 8,000 early childhood education slots, the third grader reading, and make sure that we get the kids that really deserve a chance back on the tracks.
Mr. Beaupre?
John, you did sign the READ Act amid a lot of fanfare. But just like so many other things that you've signed with some fanfare, you didn't lead on it. And the reality, and I don't know how you explain this away to mothers and dads and to those little ones who are going to lose opportunity, but this year the test scores are undeniable. They got worse again. 3 years after you signed that legislation, we have almost 2% more of our third graders that can't read. Claudia, sitting right here in the front row, is going to lead an initiative, not a government initiative, a private initiative outside of government, a new nonprofit, to do something profound. Raise the money so that every child born in Colorado, all the parent has to do is fill out a postcard. And from the time they're born until they go off to school, they'll get a free book in their mailbox every single month. Strong message. Mom and Dad, read to your little one. We know how that turns out too. And what a great statement. What a great statement on behalf of a great state to make that a priority. Give every child a chance to learn how to read and embrace the American dream.
Okay, we're down to our closing remarks. You may recall that Mr. Hickenlooper won the coin toss and elected to conclude the event tonight. So we'll have closing remarks from Bob Beaupre.
Let me thank again our sponsors, the Chieftain Public Community College, certainly Action 22, and those of you that are here tonight. I think you've heard the contrast, and this is what elections ought to be about. It should be clear and it should be distinct. I'll say again that the question that's really going to be on your ballot won't be printed this way, but it is very much there. Do you believe and trust in government, or do you believe and trust in people? It is people. That's the way they drew it up. That's why we became the greatest state and the greatest nation on God's green earth, is because our founders believed that there was a better way. Government of, by, and for the people, not government on the people. Ladies and gentlemen, regardless of the statistics he likes to cite, here's the reality. Opportunity that should be in Colorado has been going to states around us. And I'll tell you another thing, and I think you'd believe this, that when we see government come and tax us and take money out of our pocket, we say, that's wrong. I don't feel as good as I did yesterday. I lost something that was mine. When they regulate you and restrict you and control you, you say, wait a minute, I don't feel as free as I used to feel. Something's wrong with that. But when opportunity that should rightfully be here in front of every Coloradan, in front of every American, doesn't show up, that might be stealth, but it's just as wrong to deny opportunity to the people that deserve it. That's what we're Americans for. That's what we're Coloradans for. I believe in a stronger Colorado. It begins with opportunity. Certainly opportunity for our little ones to get that education and opportunity to live in a safe, secure environment and know that you and your family are going to be well protected. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe in a stronger Colorado because I've lived it. I've seen it. I've witnessed it, and I know how to get it. It's by trusting in you. Let's begin tonight. Let's fulfill the promise on November 4th in the election, and let's roll up our sleeves and get to work next January. God bless you, and thank you for being here tonight.
Mr. Hickenlooper?
I, too, want to thank Action 22 and the Pueblo Chieftain for bringing us together. This is how democracy works, right? And I think this is where true leadership is defined, right? Colorado is a state that's going to be defined more by its future than its past. It's going to be defined by moving forward together, right? Its future is going to be about innovation and collaboration, right? Not about picking pointless fights. When we talk about leadership, right, and I can pull out a whole, I mean, this has been a litany of I've failed this, failed that. You know, the National Governors Association last year chose me to be the chair of the entire 50 governors. 2/3 of those governors were Republican, right? The bottom line is Colorado is moving up. And the way we got from 40th in job creation to 4th, the way we got from $1 billion deficit into a $650 million reserve is through coming together, right? That's how we got through those floods, and we got the roads open by December 1st when everybody said it was impossible, right? That's how we dealt with the fires at Waldo Canyon all the way up the Front Range, 2 of the worst fire seasons we've ever had in our history, right? What we're going to do and what we need to do is partner together, right? And Southern Colorado has had a long history of this. Joe Garcia here, our lieutenant governor, who I think is one of the best lieutenant governors in anywhere in the country. He actually double time. He's the head of higher education at the same time. We're going to continue working to expand agricultural markets. We're going to continue to get more advanced manufacturing, like with Oliver Manufacturing that we have in Southern Colorado. We're going to get on a sustainable water path with the state water plan and make sure that we don't have buy and dry. Congressman Beaupre supported Referendum A, if you remember that, the biggest water